As a startup, you don't have big revenues.
Yes.
Huge valuations, 50% is the narrative.
Can I say that visibility is actually fundability?
Absolutely. A company without a story is a company without a strategy.
Do business in Europe go partner with PIABO and Tilo Bonow? Today, Yuan and I are doing the YUVC, Y Venture Capital podcast here at the beautiful office of PIABO, visiting the founder and CEO of PIABO, Tilo Bonow. And PIABO is a leading communications agency for the European tech industry and also from clients all across the world. Apart from that, Tilo is also an active LP of numerous promising European venture capital firms. So Tilo, say hi to our audience.
Hello, and it's really an honor to be here in your series and very glad that you reached out and happy to chat with you.
Thanks so much. Thank you for saying yes to my interview request. And we are really honored to be here at your office. It's such a great office, like our audiences can see the background. It's like a castle. So what's the name of that?
The German Dome. It's the famous Gendarmenmarkt. A lot of movies being shot. It's a very, very historic place. In my opinion, one of the most beautiful places actually in Europe, but especially here in Berlin. And we have the French Dome on the one side, the German Dome on the other side. And then we have also here the famous concert hall of Berlin in the middle. And there's also one of the best Christmas markets actually down here, and also a lot of concerts. So it's a very nice place and a beautiful view. And we feel very lucky to be here in this very historic.
So that's why you have the Glühwein.
Exactly. And I mean, as we are all about the future, right? Being such a historic place, that's a nice contrast.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks a lot for bringing our setup to the next level. Really.
So how much is it to rent the office here?
Affordable for him.
It is. We negotiated very well because, I mean, we as PIABO working with the world's most innovative companies together, that was also very attractive to have such a company here for the landlord that brings the spirit of innovation, of technology, of the future here into this building, into this historic place. So we have a good deal and we feel very lucky to be here and received a lot of support, and that's fantastic. Yeah.
Perfect. So we've got a lot to cover actually, Tilo, today. So first we're going to start with, so what's your upbringings like and how did you start and having such success with PIABO? And then so why you venture capital, which is our topic as an LP, deeply into the European venture scene. And then later, you know, like how you envision Europe as a rising tech hub. So could you first maybe introduce yourself a bit, like as a PR guru yourself?
So my name is Tilo Bonow. I'm the founder and CEO of PIABO Communications, which is in Europe the leading communications agency for the world's most innovative companies. Companies like Google, Stripe, GitHub, Shopify, OpenAI, investors like Sequoia Capital, Borderton, many others. So also the ecosystem that we are covering. We are also very thankful that we have a lot of clients from Asia, particularly also from China. The names like DJI, TCL that we are taking care of here in Europe. And we help these companies with all kinds of communication services. That means public relations when it comes to visibility in the media. That includes personal branding, like helping the CEO and leadership team to be visible, personal branding basically, but also digital strategy and social media, like what to do in the various channels and platforms that are out there, including performance marketing, etc. But also content marketing, like studies, white paper, etc. Influencer relations, right? Who you should work with that elevates your message. In the end of the day, it's all about visibility and giving the entrepreneurs and industry partners the visibility that they need to grow. And it's all about growth in the end of the day. What's here is particularly important that every company has target groups, right? Some doing it because they need to attract investors. Some need more employees, right? They are struggling to find the best talent. Some just simply want to gain traction and win clients or shorten their sales cycles.
Maybe nowadays more relevant, like especially in terms of crisis management.
Yeah, I mean, for example, you have to lay off employees. That could be that there is a investment round that is not happening. There are many areas where crisis can occur.
Yeah, I think.
Should we do a short break?
Right now we have a crisis management.
Maybe just like this. Let's tell Chan that.
Success.
Okay. Then that was just the wrong cable.
Okay.
Thank you, Chan.
Perfect. So let's get back to it. So Tilo, have you ever like imagined founding or investing in something when you were a bit younger?
I mean, I always had a very entrepreneurial mindset already as I was in my 17, 18. I was starting a company that helped our local businesses in the village that I grew up, building their website and helping with their digital marketing. But then also learned in an advertising agency, in a PR firm. I was the global head of communications of an internet conglomerate, and so gained also a lot of in-house experience. But for me, it was clear then at a point that there's a new wave of startups, young entrepreneurs that really want to change the world and building new technologies, coming up with great ideas. They need a different kind of communications. They're often more aggressive in the market. They're backed by venture capital. They have big ambitions. They need faster results, et cetera. So they need also different kind of communications agency that understands how these kind of new kids on the block actually work. And this kind of agency wanted to be for the people who really change how the world works. And they need different kind of communications. They have a different mindset. So that was always our focus and is until today. We only work for companies in the technology, innovation, digital space, companies that are also in a heavily disruptive environment, but also the entire ecosystem. I think that was always very fascinating for me personally, but also for our entire team to be at the forefront of technology and of the forefront of the latest developments in the world. And especially maybe to add this, because it's a very important aspect, I think it's not just about helping these companies to grow and to be visible and to achieve their goals. It's also important to take the society alongside of these kind of developments, because without the backing of the society, all these innovations doesn't really matter, because people have fear, oh, will AI steal my job? Will robots maybe take over the world, etc., right? Cyber security issues, etc. So I think it's important to explain that in a very good manner to the society, to take them alongside, that they believe, that they understand what all this change and all this innovation mean for the workplace, for their families, for their health, for the environment that they're operating in. I think this is a very important aspect that often is forgotten by technology companies. They're always very much in love with their product and their services and always inventing something new, but you need also the backing from the people out there, because you want them to be, not just to be their clients, but you want also that they be ambassadors and believing it and don't are scared or having fear of what is coming, right? That's being you have to build trust. Trust is a very, very important part of communications, why you should communicate. And trust is also always a confident relationship with the unknown, right? And when you build a new company, new technology, nobody knows, right? That you are a fresh brand and nobody knows who programmed which data you're using, etc. So transparency is key, and taking the people alongside the journey, the entrepreneurial journey, is very, very important.
It's super relevant. So especially, like it reminds me of like the book that I actually read during when I studied for my bachelor's. It's called Why Communication Fails. And so further, it also reminds me of another book called Why Nations Fail. Maybe sometimes nations fail also because of communications error.
I mean, it's in the end of the day, communications, and that's why it's also so important for every entrepreneur, that an activating storytelling has influence on every part of a company, and so on every part of a nation. Right? Yes. And a company is a part of many, many areas, right? It's about partnerships, it's about collaboration, it's about clients, employees, investors. So there's a huge group of stakeholders around a company, and it's all about communication. It's internal communication, right? How do you keep your people? How do you take them alongside your company's journey? You have to pitch to investors, have a good story to the investor market, right? I mean, especially startups, right? 50% is storytelling of a valuation of a startup, right? Because as a startup, you don't have big revenues.
Yes.
You don't have big EBITDA margins, right? The only thing you can show, clients love us, we have some growth momentum, and we built something. But still, for these huge valuations that they're going into, 50% is the narrative, right? And that's why it's so important. And I mean, we see that everywhere in the world, also in politics that you mentioned, how important communications, messaging, storytelling is here, right? Because at the end of the day, you sell a vision, right? Nobody knows how the future will look like, right? But it is like a promise, and a brand is a promise and trust, right? And the question is, who do you trust? And trust is always very, very contextual and subjective, right? I can tell you, let's say, for example, Elon Musk. Is he a great entrepreneur? You would say, of course. He builds rockets, he builds cars. He's amazing. What a great entrepreneur. Satellites. Wow. When I ask you, is he a great employer? It's like, oh, working for him, that is maybe not the best reputation that he has as an employer, right? And so you can look in many, many areas where depends a bit on from which angle you're looking at, what the context is, right? And I mean, the more expensive a product is, the more important the decision is, the more people looking. I mean, if I buy a glass of water, I mean, like, what can possibly go wrong, right? But if it's an expensive tool, or you're buying a new home, or you a medicine, or whatever it is, the more expensive or the more personal and important it gets, the more important is the factor of trust. Do I trust this company, right? What they stand for, right? And also when you want to justify a higher price point, right? It's like, why are they charging more than the others? I mean, you see, let's stick to the topic of water. I can buy a normal no-name brand of water for like 30, 40, 50 cents here at the next train station. I can also buy a bottle of Evian where we're all willing to pay €3. It's water in the end of the day. But in the one case, we believe in the packaging and being part of a community, that it's healthy, and right, we trust them, that it comes from France, from the mountains of France, wow, right? And I've been able to end. Also, the environment matters, because if I buy that here in a supermarket, I maybe pay €1 or €2. If I buy it at the airport, maybe 3 or 4. If it maybe in a gym or in an airplane, it's maybe 5, right? So it also that depends. And this is everything has to do with branding and communication, and how you make the audience like feel being part of a community. The look and feel, the reliability as well, right? I mean, you see it often also with startups, right? They say at the one stage the one thing, on the website they're communicating something different, and the press release they're saying also something different, and they're sending a newsletter that doesn't align. So being reliable and being clear to your message and know what you want to communicate and have a unique communication point is really, really mission critical.
So I think that's from like your 4C concepts that you mentioned earlier. So it's like, first is clarity. So like the target audiences have to be convey that exact information, or they have to comprehend and understand that. You know, even though like lots of startup founders or tech workers, they're tech savvy, and they think that everybody else outside their world understands them. But it's not the truth.
And by the way, you see this often when it comes to the sea of clarity, right? When you sit together with a founder, they can talk about hours about their company, right? They can also write 3, 4, 5 pages about how amazing they are, what they do, etc. But this doesn't matter, right? It's about the clarity. When you're going out of this meeting and say, okay, it was a great guy, but like, what is he actually doing, right? What is the unique communication point? What's the one thing that people you want to remember? So for example, in PIABO's case, I'm very clear, can say in one sentence, PIABO is the leading communications agency for the world's most innovative companies. So you know exactly what you get. So you know, if you're producing water, probably we're not the right fit for you. If you're a fashion designer, probably you don't go to PIABO, right? If you're a founder of an innovative company who has a great tech innovative digital product, probably PIABO is the best address in the world that you can find. So that's why clarity is key, right? And this is something that's often, this clear positioning, this crisp thing. This is what founders often missing. That is the crucial part. And I can always tell them and say, simplicity wins, complexity kills.
Exactly. Yeah. So following your principle, so I can describe YUVC in one sentence. So YUVC asks global leaders what were the lessons they've learned and why they venture capital as investors.
Good. I mean, you know what you're doing.
You have something to ask?
Yeah, so how did you find that you are good at these kind of things in very early stage, like 2006? And how do you find that you are founder and product fit in PIABO in that time?
I always had a big passion about communication one way or the other. My first job was in an advertising agency where I quickly learned that like doing billboards and TV spots and events, etc., was nice and I was good at it, but it wasn't really something that I was passionate about. So like being a communicator in PR, where you work with journalists, where you're crafting messages, where you really kind of influence the influencers, right, was for me something that was much more interesting. And over my entire career, I was always working with innovative entrepreneurs, with people who wanted to change the world, who had big ambitions. And this was a target group that I felt very comfortable with. So that's how the things came together.
Tech founders are usually stubborn and unwilling to recognize the value of PR. So how do you persuade them to pay more attention to PR or
amazing that competitors are utilizing PR.
But this, this is a very important point. But I think you're saying in Europe they're doing it good. I think in the US they're doing it even better. Because often when you go there, there's a founder who has actually nothing than just a fancy website, but the storytelling and the website looks so amazing. You want immediately say, "Oh, can I invest in your company?" Right? Because it looks like it literally sucks your credit card in, right? Because they're like so crisp and sharp and good in storytelling. And often I can tell here in Europe and other parts of the world, the quality of the product is often much, much better, right? But at the end of the day, how they sell it, how they're communicating it, how the website looks like, is very, very horrible, right? And this is something, to your point, that every founder, every entrepreneur, every investor has to understand. It is not enough to be the best if there are others that sell better. Because you see that every day. They're very, very smart people. They have amazing products, and they come to us and say, "Tilo, but the other company, our competitor, they're always getting better talent, they're getting more money from the investors or better valuations, or they're winning one client after another. But our company is much better. We are cheaper or smarter or like faster or like more cyber secure, whatever like fits with the product, right?" And then I always tell them exactly that. Yeah, but you're not visible. You don't exist literally because nobody knows about you, right? And only if you communicate properly, you will be seen, you will be heard, you will be recognized. And I mean, that's the same also in our industry, right? I mean, there are tons of agencies out there that you can work with, but there are brands that you know and that stand for it. And then hopefully in our case, the quality and the visibility is in the best possible case, of course, aligned. Yeah. But you see that so often when you see someone on TV getting interviewed, right? Or someone quoted in a newspaper or someone on stage at a conference where you're thinking by yourself, I know much more about the topic, right? I have never heard about this guy. Like, why not me, right? And that's the same with founders and with others. And you can always say, yeah, it doesn't matter if you're better, smarter, cheaper, more clever, more whatever. If the others are just more visible, more present, and are better in selling themselves. And I'm not saying that is probably a good thing, but that's reality, right? People buy from people when they have trust and confidence, right? And this is the same as recommendation. If I ask you, I mean, I'm going, whatever, let's say I go to Shanghai, what's the best hotel there or what's the best restaurant there? You name the ones that you had an experience with, that you know, that you saw a great advertising. It's, oh, I heard about this place, you should go there, right? You wouldn't recommend, obviously, or can't recommend something that you don't know about, right? How could you, right? Or where you didn't make an experience, good or bad, right? And I think that's very, very important to understand, right? That this is a mission critical part for the success of a company. And this can make or break your company, and it's about the growth trajectory of your company. And give you another example, right? I mean, many companies that we represent, they're in B2B sales, right? And they're always thinking, oh my God, it takes so long until to convince a corporate to buy our software, etc., right? And when you do sales, when you want to sell, you know that you need several touch points with clients until they make a buying decision. Studies say between 7 and 32. That's usually between there, depending on the price point, the product, the industry, etc. And when the sales guy calls someone, obviously it's just one touch point, right? And how can he help the company to understand and what is part of that buying decision, right? Because often the person you're calling is not the one that makes the final decision, right? He is also a boss, etc., right? So of course it helps when they have seen the founder of the company on stage speaking at a conference. Of course it helps if they've seen a LinkedIn post on social media and learned about the company. Of course it helps when they received a newsletter or listened to a podcast, saw the newsletter, whatever it is. So generating several touch points, right? And I think that's a very, very important part. And maybe they Google the name of the company or the product, right? What are they finding, right? What kind of results, right? And obviously, yes, you can buy an ad there, but obviously it's more trustworthy when you see an article from the New York Times or TechCrunch or Handelsblatt in Germany or whatever, right? So that's what it is all about, right? And it is something that is often very underestimated.
Yeah, it should be shown like everything is in a consistent manner. And so, as you said,
it's also C, consistency.
Consistency, continuity, right? And then credibility.
Yeah, continuity is another thing, because doing something on a continued basis is, especially when it comes to PR and communication, is very, very important. Because it doesn't make sense to come like check on the box like, hey, here we are, and here's our funding announcement or our product launch, and then like go quiet again. That's not how you build a brand, right? Mm-hmm. It has to be on a continued basis, over and over again, stressing over and over the same points, communicating with the journalists, with the influencers, with the industry. And again, right, don't complain if your competitor is on stage on the newspapers if you haven't done your homework. And this is also, here comes consistency in the game. You need to stand for something, right? Be the media instead of pitch the media, right? Be a trusted source, right, for expertise, right? Be clear about who you are. You are the woman who founded a company that does this AI for cancer prevention. You are the guy who reinvents mobility with a new scooter that can whatever go faster, safer, whatever, right? Like, claim a category, right? Mm-hmm. Be a category leader. And if then a conference organizer, a journalist, a TV team think, oh, we need someone who can talk about cancer prevention and with AI, or what can AI do in medicine, whatever. This lady, let's talk to her. Let's bring her on, right? Because she stands for it. She's visible for it. So that's how the world works.
Mm-hmm. So like nowadays, like people also say that like investment firms like A16Z is actually a media firm. So they really take media part as communications part as critical part.
Yeah, I mean, we love A16Z. We partner with them. They're good friends with us. And I think it was Ben Horowitz who famously said, a company without a story is a company without a strategy.
Can I say that visibility is actually fundability?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So as you mentioned LinkedIn, so how did you actually come up with your naming Mandarin?
I mean, I have many friends in Asia. I have, as PIABO have many clients from Asia. And I think it's first of all almost a talking point. I'm getting approached a lot, like, hey, why do you have your name there in Mandarin, etc. And it's also, I think, a courtesy and as an act of kindness to help the people in Asia to pronounce the name correctly, right? To help. And I think it's also a nice gesture to our friends and clients in Asia to say, hey, we're not just like talking and we care about you, and we love your culture and we respect your culture, and that's something that starts with having your name in the local language. Yeah. And we are, I think, also the only communications agency in Europe that has his website in Mandarin.
Indeed.
So I don't know of anyone else. So I think if you want to do business, you have to make also some steps. You cannot just sit there and say, deal with it, right? You have to be also like here in a way like a good partner.
Yeah, I mean, like if there's a course code doing business in China, you might have mastered that.
And talking about trust, that's where trust starts with. Who do you think a Chinese brand, for example, trusts more? Someone who has only the website in a local language, or someone who can show we dealt with Chinese clients? There are massive cultural differences also in communication, how to do business, but give them trust and confidence that they're at the right place, and that when they want to do business in Europe, our telephone should ring, or the email inbox should be filled, or whatever.
And also had a side effect, like you said, you can identify which emails are written by AI by adding your Chinese name.
If the AI scrapes all the information directly from your LinkedIn.
Yeah, because there are a lot of robots, right, where you're getting then messages on LinkedIn, etc. And when they then adding the Chinese name, was like, okay, you clearly used the robot and didn't write me personally, so I immediately know what's spam and what's not.
Right. So dating back, so who was exactly your first client, and were they immediately happy about your value proposition when you just started PIABO?
Our first client was actually Christian Vollmann, which is a very prestigious business angel and entrepreneur here in Germany who grown many companies here. At that point, as we started, he was doing myvideo.de, which was at that time the biggest and most successful video platform. So compared like with YouTube in the US, right? Cool. So here in Germany, that he then sold to ProSiebenSat.1, the big media network here in Germany. And that was a fantastic client. We worked with them for many, many, many years. It was great stories to tell and to position him as a successful entrepreneur. So it was a lot of fun. And he was many years, I think 5 to 10 years, we worked with them.
Cool.
Yeah, it's also based on trust that you get the first clients.
Yeah, again, in every business you have competitors, right? And there's always, for the clients, have always alternatives, right? Do I go with the one airline or with the other, right? Do I open my bank account with the one or with the other? Clients have choices, right? And the question is simply, who do I trust my business? Especially in our case where it's about reputation. I mean, reputation is something that is so valuable that you actually can't buy with money, right? I mean, a reputation that you have is something that you build over years and can destroy in seconds. And so I think it's very, very important to have this clear positioning and doing good. And also what our philosophy is, give before you take, right? So we do a lot of mentoring workshops that we don't charge anything. We just do it as a service for the community. Of course, we hope one day they may be big enough to become our clients, but that's not a requirement or an expectation that we have, right? So we work with many incubators, investors, platforms together, speak at many conferences, having keynotes, commenting on the industry, giving advice to founders, because I believe in being kind, being helpful, being a good partner of the industry. And I think that also has to do with focus and as a clear mindset and know what you want. Because if we would be a random, yet another communications firm, and we just work for everyone who has money, then you can't have this clear positioning, right? And you just like get another agency. But in our case, it's very clear. We decline a lot of clients that doesn't fit in our profile, right? We could make much more money if we would just take, everyone come in, right? No problem. But this is not our philosophy, right? There are other agencies that are doing that. But you can be only really deep in the industry, very well connected, understand the mechanics if you're really part of that industry. And we are a part. And we are part not just because we have the experience with all these amazing clients, we are part of it because we are investing in that industry, we are helping this industry, we are being present at the events and forums that exist. We have certain products and services that are completely tailored, dedicated to the industry. And we have the deepest and widest network you can expect, because at the end of the day, from a mechanical point, doing communications, of course, there are many people who can do that, right? But when it's about really building also a brand for the people you want to reach, to journalists, for example, they know when there's something from PIABO that's of good quality, that's always from companies that are at the forefront of innovation, of technology, right? We stand for something. I think having this clear positioning, standing for something, is very, very important. It's something that you don't want to miss, and that's why I stressed several times.
So across the regions and industries and even the stages, so what's the ticket size you provide for each?
I mean, that's very different and depends on the fund, but it's true that we have a lot of commitment to the venture capital industry, simply because venture capital funds are our clients, right? They're coming to us to communicate their GPs, their profile, their positioning. Second, we partner with them for their portfolio companies, because investors have an intrinsic motivation to have see their portfolio companies rise and shine, and with a strong and good reputation. And three, that we also, sometimes we love solo GPs, we love emerging managers, so here also helping the next generation of VCs thrive and shine. And we bring, of course, a lot of value add, right? It's not about the money, we're not a bank, right? So so it's not about the ticket size, etc. It's supporting the industry, is having access to the knowledge and see what are the next topics, trends, technologies that are backed, right? So when they're backing it in 6 months and 12 months, that becomes relevant for us. We learn also a lot, and we see the numbers, we're learning about the industries. It's also that we can early on provide help and guidance for the portfolio companies, and if they're big enough, help them further on. And hopefully we get at least our money back, right? Not losing money. We have a bit different approach here to venture capital.
Yeah, I see, like as the portfolio company startups grow up, and like you're also like the go-to PR guy.
Yeah, I mean, like that's of course is nice when that happens. It's not what we expect or demand, but it's a logical relationship that we're building.
Yeah, exactly. So I also see like some of your portfolio VCs also as guests on our show, like World Fund, Daniel, and also like 3 VCs, Peter.
So I can recommend you some more cool and hot and upcoming VCs because they are often have great ideas. They are very ambitious, maybe not the usual household names or brand names. I mean, many studies show the smaller the fund, the better the returns, just from a financial perspective. But it's also that I feel smaller funds have also the ability to really creating and building really fantastic networks. The founders are in love with them. They are really, really helpful and often more engaged and more helpful than the big guys, right? And I think the industry needs both. You need the big funds when it comes to Series A, B, C funding. You need the ones that are getting their hands dirty and the founders fall in love with. So it's good. The more money in the industry is the better.
So as you also mentioned, like you love to back solo GPs. So do you have like such an investment criteria for you to back those VCs? What kind of VCs, GPs would you back?
I mean, I like, same as like I mentioned in communication, someone who has a clear positioning first and foremost.
Yeah.
That is not like all over the place and knows what they actually do and good at, right? In the best possible way, their previous careers have shown a clear path why they are good to focus on this industry. AKA, for example, I invested in a fund that is focused on space tech, which I'm very fascinated about. Alpine Space Ventures in Munich, one of the few space tech funds. We do also a lot of space tech science here with PIABO, so this is a good match. And one of the JPs was one of the first employees from SpaceX, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
We talked about him. And so obviously that someone was like, hey, that makes totally sense, right? That he runs a fund about space tech, right? So this is the first thing, positioning and clear path. Second, I love if they've been entrepreneurs by themselves. They know how it feels. They know how it feels to be on the other side, to be under pressure, to have sleepless nights, to lay off people, to fight with investors, clients, etc.
Knows so, how communication works.
It's also good. It's always good. It's always a good idea to know how communication works. Also in relationships, that's always good advice. But this is a second criteria that I personally care about. The third is that this is a sector where we obviously maybe have a blank spot, or haven't invested yet, or not over invested yet, and maybe also from geography, why maybe a geography that we haven't covered yet. And of course, very important, are the founders in love with them, right? Are they a magnet for founders? Because that's not just the LPs are clients of them, also the founders, right? And I want to feel that the founders are say, wow, this is really someone who makes a difference in my life.
Founder friendly and founder focused.
Right. This is super important to me. And that's the first things that I'm looking at. And of course, it's then also a bit like about chemistry and feeling, right? That you say, hey, is it a guy you would have a beer with, right? And someone who is responsive. But also how they leverage their LP community. Because of course, there are funds that sending you 4 times a year a reporting and then say, good luck, right? There are others that have a very active LP community. They do AGMs, they do meetups with their founders. They know exactly what their LPs, what kind of value add they can provide to their portfolio companies and can connect them accordingly. And also leveraging these relationships and making clear, yes, you can invest in my fund, but do something good also for my portfolio companies, right? Yeah. So that's what I like. Some people who are smart about their LP base as well.
Mm-hmm. So are you an LP like VCs like? So like, are you pushy for the DPIs?
I'm not pushy because the simple reason is that especially younger funds, I think they are even a bit too fast with it because they feel to raise the next fund, they have to sell something or make a partial exit, etc., just to show, oh, we can generate a DPI. And I would wish that the industry is much more honest and transparent when it comes about that. Recent statistics show very clearly that it takes at least 12, 14, 16, sometimes even longer years until we have built really something big and substantial. And by the way, PIABO is the best example, right? We are 18 years old now, right? We're over 100 people and market leader in that sector, etc. It takes time. It's not overnight. And I don't understand that many VCs come there and say, yeah, 10 years, and in year 7 you can expect. Let's be honest. Let's face reality, how companies work and what statistics and data show us. I don't expect that they're asking after year 4 or 5 or 6, where's my DPI? Clearly not. I know it's a long-term relationship and not a one-night stand.
Exactly.
You are the LP everyone likes. Yeah. So you have both a VC and a PR perspective. So how do you think for the emerging VCs, how should they now build their PR supporting for founders? You know, if they don't have any this kind of supporting, they will like the competitiveness. And if they just spend a few resources, it will have no effect. But if they spend too much on it, the managed fee is not.
I mean, doing a little bit is better than doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
And I would encourage every VC to do something because, I mean, let's face it, a AAA founder, a really, really good founder, can choose who they get their money from, right? And if you have term sheets from 3, 4, 5 VCs, the same was my example with water, with many other things. You have the team term sheets, everyone maybe offers you the same valuation, the same amount of money. Who do you go for?
Yeah.
You go for the one that is clearly positioned as someone who can help you and support you, that is known in the industry and has industry respect and has a great network to other investors, maybe for your follow-on, etc. So and so on and so on. But how can the founder know if you don't communicate it, right? And everyone knows something that you don't, right? So there's always some knowledge, some wisdom, some experiences, and to showcase that and be clear as a GP, how that helps to get into the best deals, to get also the right inbound attraction, and helps you win competitive deals. And that's what's in the end of the day it is all about, and what you also as LLP expect, right? If you're not out there hustling, how can you get into the best deals?
Actually, the other day I actually saw a VC that pitches to startups. Well, the solo GP, she herself made a video pitching to startup founders. You know, like if you're a startup founder, then you'll feel like, okay, that this VC, I have to talk to her.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that makes totally sense. And I think, I mean, you're going on a long-term journey, right? This journey, again, is maybe 10, 12, 14 years together. You will also go through shit, you will go to financial crisis. Many things will happen alongside the way as an entrepreneur. And you have to have the feeling, I have the right women, the right men by my side, right? And spending a lot of time building your baby, your company. So you need someone on your side who has your back, literally.
So as an LP inside European Ventures, so you only invest in Europe or also the States?
Globally.
Globally,
yeah.
Okay, cool. And so despite how far-fetched or speculative it would be, like what kind of funds would it be like your wildest dream to back?
Fund or company?
Fund.
I mean,
or company.
I mean, I would say I have a pretty wild fund investment as well. I just came back from Nigeria, from Lagos, one of my first investments in Africa. It's a wild part of the world, and it's a very interesting fund. But I mean, I'm also invested in Asia, in Singapore, in Vietnam, in Indonesia, Hong Kong, Japan, in the US, in Europe, Africa. So I think I'm good in identifying also a bit like the outliers and the ones who are a bit scrappy and different.
Yeah.
I have also, of course, the big one, the household names, etc. But I think, you know, the mixture is interesting, and that's what it makes. Yeah.
So both as a proficient LP and PR communications guru, so are there any like red flags of those GPs that you can identify immediately?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, sometimes where you feel that they're all over the place and don't have a clear focus and path. Second, if there are like constructions that they are backed by people where you feel that it doesn't really beneficial for what they want to build. When you do reference calls with founders or other partners, when there are some red flags that coming up, there could be also some things they did maybe in the past, etc. So I mean, of course, I mean, you do your work, you do your due diligence, of course, also there, and make your decisions based on that.
So as an LP, like, which fund was your first ticket, and was there such a fund that you accompanied from when they were an emerging fund and now they are more established? First
VC investment was Cavalry Ventures here in Berlin. This was at that point really the new kid on the block here in Berlin. And I started as I think it was not even 30 million or so, like quite a small fund. And yeah, now they are in their third fund generation and still in business and still operating. So let's see what they're coming up with.
Great progress. Yeah. So what kind of like lessons have that taught you? Like, of course, like it made you a better LP. Like seeing like the not only the raising, investing, and exiting, portfolio management of how a VC fund works, and how.
I mean, VC, venture capital, is the backbone of our industry, not the PR industry, but the startup industry, right?
Yes.
And when you see even the big ones like Google, Stripe, etc., they're all backed by venture capital in the end of the day, in the early days, right? So this is the industry that fuels innovation, that fuels the future. And I think knowing how these very mission-critical institutions work, what the terms, the conditions, the mechanics, etc. This is very, very important, right? And I think this is a value that we as PIABO can provide, which is very unique as an agency, that we have this knowledge and this expertise and these connections.
Yeah. So as long as it holds that, venture capital still accelerates tech evolution.
Definitely. But I mean, you can now ask philosophically the question if the AI and on top in the future quantum computing will change the industry, right? Because many people are already claiming there's maybe the first $1 billion one-man company, right? And things like that. So maybe you don't need your typical A, B, C, D round anymore, because you need just maybe a little bit of money at the beginning to start with, but then because of automation and many other factors, you can very lean and slim build great, fantastic companies. I think there are changes in venture capital. I think nobody can, again, predict exactly the future. So for example, when we're talking about AI, there are now AI companies who disrupt companies that we 5 years told they are the disruptors. Right, so I think there's a lot of change, and it will change also the venture capital industry. So we will see. I mean, it's interesting, exciting times.
Yeah. So even though like the $1 billion company can be made up only with one person or two people, they still need communication or need communication help from PIABO.
Of course. For us, it doesn't matter how many people are in a company. We want to help them to get the word out, to position them, to communicate clearly what they do, help them win clients, talent, investors, have a clear, strong positioning in good times and in bad times. Absolutely.
Yeah, so nowadays I also see like too many like Chinese companies, they come to the European market. So like, of course, like including the companies that you have worked with, like DJI, TCL, like there are many more like coming to Europe. Like the competition is so fierce nowadays in China, so that they seek outside options to expand their pies. And how well is PIABO positioned to ride that wave?
I mean, in the early days of PIABO, we had a lot of Silicon Valley tech heavyweights that came to us from the Western world. Think about, we helped launching LinkedIn here in Germany, Facebook and Evernote, many others. But yeah, you're right. I mean, since 2-3 years, we see there's a rise of companies from Asia coming to Europe, want to conquer Europe. Has maybe also to do with geopolitical tensions between the US and Asia. And I mean, it's fantastic to see that there are also new kind of companies now approaching Europe. Obviously, the cultural differences are much, much bigger than from the US to Europe, right? So there is learnings on both sides, how to deal with each other. And it requires a certain open-mindedness, how to run a company or business here. And I think I see there also wind of change, that companies from Asia, particularly from China, learned their lessons, how business here in Europe works, and have adapted to be successful, to become successful here in Europe. And it is a learning process from both sides, right? And we are very lucky that we early on have dealt with clients from Asia, from China, have this knowledge, have this experience, how to guide them, how to make sure they are on the right track for success here in Europe. But again, it requires an open heart, an open mind to understand, hey, they're the local experts, they know how it works. We trust them that they will guide us in the right direction. And so it is fantastic to see that we win the trust and have the trust of many big brands from Asia that want to be successful here in Europe. And we are positioned to get more of them. We are ambitious, we want more of them. We will soon announce also more partnerships in Asia. On the agency communication side, we are ambitious and bullish on Asia and want to build close ties, relationships and friendships over there.
Attention audiences, if you want to do business in Europe, go partner with PIABO and Tilo Bonow. the man sitting here.
Yeah, but I mean, it's important. I mean, you give your reputation in the hand of someone else, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have maybe to change also the brand and the perception of the brand, right? And it's a way, it's a journey, right? And in Asia, often it's a pay-for-play game. Here, it's often earned media, right? And things culturally different, and we have to respect that. And I think it's important to not just come and say, we've been successful in, for example, China that way, and that's why we want to do it exactly the way here. You will fail. You will waste time and money, right? It's the same way I would come to expand to China and say, I do it exactly how I did it here in Germany. I would say, yeah, Tilo, but this doesn't work like that here, right? We have different rules and different terms and conditions. And I think that's important to understand and trust your partner. Of course, you have to find trustworthy partners. I mean, there are on both sides people who just want to make a quick money and then not successful. So rely on people who understand what they're doing, that have a good track record, a good reputation, and then you will win.
So having the right partner makes it work better. So Tilo, your PIABO is headquartered here in Berlin. So how is Berlin unique and distinct from like any other cities, venture hubs here in Europe?
I mean, first and foremost, Berlin is, besides London, and London is unfortunately not new anymore, right? It's literally an island now, yes. Also politically. But it's here clearly the number one place for startup, for tech and innovation. And the pure numbers tell you that. I mean, Paris is obviously also a place where a lot of things happening, but I mean, Berlin by far, followed also within Germany by Munich. So it's a fantastic place. It's very international. Right, it's in Germany the only really big global city with 4 million, almost 4 million people here, and people love to come to Berlin. People love to do business here. You can go very far with English, right? You don't have even to learn German, and can do things. And I mean, you spend already a week here. You can maybe tell, and it has the right infrastructure and mindset. You find great talent, right? You can test your product. You can build here. You can go global from here very easily because you can find talent in many different languages. Is everything perfect? No. Is there a place in the world where everything is perfect? No. So I invite everyone to check out Berlin.
So in your mind, like, does Berlin as a city convey its communication or information well already?
I mean, also Berlin has a certain reputation in the old days for party and for techno, etc., which is good, right? It attracts young people, which the young talent, the fresh minds to do stuff here. It's a place that is very open-minded. Nobody cares who you are, where you're from, etc. You just be yourself. You can embrace diversity is embraced here. It's a city of fashion, maybe not the kind of fashion that Paris is referring to, but a very special kind of fashion with designers here, a lot of culture. We have 3 opera houses, etc. I mean, it's just like culturally very, very rich, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a place where you can easily go around, right? You can
you have 2 Apple stores.
2 Apple stores, if that's important, yeah. Yeah, but on the other hand, also like everything is within 2 hours. You can reach like Paris, London, Vienna, Zurich, Milan, Barcelona, etc. So within half a day of travel investment, you can be almost everywhere in Europe, right? And it's really, really fantastic infrastructure-wise as well, right? And Berlin is also very close to Eastern Europe, right? Which also is a rising and thriving market. Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria. When you see what happens in the Baltic countries, it's fantastic to see the thriving tech industry there. So we are very positive.
Cool.
But everyone on the street looks very upset, maybe because the weather is so bad.
Yeah, I mean, like November, December, January, February, maybe not the best time to visit Berlin. Berlin, you have to visit in spring and summer, and also a little bit autumn. Okay. That's the time to come here. But yeah, I mean, for the residents, we're used to it.
But it's good to park here. Like I drive a car around Europe. I found it super hard to park in Vienna. But Germany, it's okay. In Berlin, even better.
I mean, we are a car country, right? And we have parking houses, parking lots, etc. So I think it's convenient. But I have to say, Berlin has one of the best public transport systems in the world. Exactly. You actually in Berlin don't need even a car. That's why you're getting so much parking lots, because the locals don't drive here, right? You have the subway, you have trains, you have buses, you have bike sharing, you have scooters, you have car sharing, you have the tram. I mean, like, it's amazing, right? It's amazing how
and the subways are 24 hours on weekends, I remember. So as an LP, so what do you see, like, what's missing in Europe for it to be a better venture hub?
I think we, in some countries, maybe not the German startup scene, but I feel the founders should be much more ambitious when it comes to going global. I think this is something I would wish happens more, that we see especially Europe really as a platform, and thus my second point requires also more commitment from the politics, right? That you harmonize rules, regulations when it comes to taxes, about many things. So I think we are definitely not there yet, and this is, I think, super important to, I mean, that's the advantage when you go to the US or to China, you have one huge market, right? And everything plays after in the same rule, no matter if you do business in New York or in San Francisco or in Shanghai or in Beijing or in Shenzhen, right? And this is something we need desperately here in Europe to become successful, that we have unified system. There will be always differences, there will be always cultural differences, which is totally fine, but we need this kind of harmonization when you want to do business here. And I think this is really something that Europe
So are you seeing it changing already?
Too slow. Yes, there's wind of change, there's initiatives from governments, from the industry organizations, etc., but it's too slow. It's too slow.
So how do you view Germany as of today?
Too slow. I mean, as of today, we will have elections soon here. We hopefully will have a government who is pro-innovation, who is pro-startups, who really does a lot for the industry. Not that the current administration has done nothing. They have done a lot, but again, not enough, not ambitious enough, and we need more. And we need a strong government who speaks with one voice, a government that is not seeing what happens in technology as a fear or a threat, that embracing innovation and change, and is also more willing to experiment, right? And who is supporting it in a way. Give you a simple example, right? It's still too difficult to get foreign workers here to Germany. It's still a lot of bureaucracy to set up a company, maintaining a company, a lot of like reportings, regulations when it comes to labor laws, etc. It's not state of the art, right? It's like you're being judged if you're a freelancer and say, oh, are you actually not an employee? You're working for this company, right? There's a lot of stupid rules and regulations that needs to be modernized and updated. This is really, really mission critical. I have faith in the future government that they will hopefully understand it and bring Germany in the right direction. We are a great nation. We are a very powerful nation. We have a lot of smart people here, but there needs to be a significant upgrade, especially towards our industry.
So smart people should be put on the politics side.
Which doesn't happen because you can't make money there, and it's like too much bureaucracy. Like I know a lot of people who would be great politicians, but they're avoiding it because they, you know what, it's too slow, it's like too much hassle. And that's of course not cool, but I hope that the lobby organizations of our industry, referring to the tech and startup industry, will do a great job.
Make Germany great again.
Careful with that kind of quotes, but Germany has the potential and will have a great future. We just have to unlock it,
So like in speaking of the bureaucracies, how did you actually navigate investing to funds all across Europe? It's all in maybe different countries and with different regulations. Was it really a pain to you?
Absolutely. I mean, luckily when you invest today in venture capital funds, often there are great fund administrator where you can do the entire journey almost digitally, right? I think there is a bit wind of change, but still you have do KYC and all this kind of stuff all over again.
So the last part will be a bit more like.
Sorry, I have two more questions about PR strategies for startups. Like most founders, I think they will be curious about that. If they want to raise money, so how would you advise them to manage their PR risk? Like
towards funding rounds?
Yeah, like in the 3 months before and during and after the funding, in China they have some strategies. Yeah,
I mean, we have also some strategies here, working very close with M&A consultants together on that one, because, I mean, if you do in a massive fundraising, it's of course important to be visible to the potential investors when they do their research and due diligence, that they find good reputation and not some crisis or shit show there, but also to bring the company on the radar of the right people, especially maybe when you're looking for strategic investors or corporates, or if it's about an exit or something something like that, to bring strategically the company on the radar of the stakeholders of the companies who are making these kind of decisions, or investors who are making these kind of decisions, is helpful. Because if the, for example, M&A consultants go out there and shop your deal, it's always good to say, oh yeah, I heard about this company. Yeah, that's a great company. I saw them at this conference, or I read about them in the industry newspapers, things like that. So this definitely happens. And also here, communications plays a big role. Again, the younger company, the more important is the narrative. And the more important the narrative influences the valuation of the company.
So do they have a period to be silent during the fundraising process?
They don't have to be silent. I mean, what you're referring to is the quiet period when it comes to going public. That's a bit different. But when it's a normal fundraising for a startup, they don't have to be quiet.
Okay, so do fundraisers have to play hard to get?
That's also, of course, a behavior then of the founder, right? If he takes every call and every email from investors and say, you know what, let's go slow, let's go step by step and see what kind of opportunities we have here, or particularly mentioning we're not fundraising at the moment, but still you can build relationships. And as the old saying goes, you better make friends before you need them.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really, you have to strike a delicate balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we had situations where we brought companies, particularly in the media, for the purpose of fundraising. And we had recently a fintech company who've been in the process of raising, and we had a great interview at Finance Forward, which is one of the leading fintech magazines here about the future of finance. And after that article was out there, they reported 8 inquiries from investors. We're talking about a couple of them really, really prestigious investors. So this one article really changed their life, their investment process.
That's pretty cool.
So how to post on Wall Street Journey and New York Times? What's the price?
I mean, it's same like in the tech industry where everyone wants to be obviously featured in TechCrunch. You have to understand that these kind of media, the global English-speaking media, they're receiving per day between 800, 1,000, sometimes even more emails, pitches per day. So the question is also here, how you can stand out from the crowd, right?
Yeah.
And that maybe is who sends this message, is there a personal relationship, right? Is the story as crisp and clear as it can get? Is it relevant? Is it timely? Does it stick to the principles of what journalists write about? And this is, of course, the more prestigious the newspaper is, the more harder it gets.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not sufficient for you to be rich to be posted, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and professionals can tell if you use ChatGPT, you write your text, a good journalist can spot it and say, you know what, that's not something we will publish.
Yeah.
So the final part will be more on your personal takes. So is there something that you believed so deep, but later you found, okay, that doesn't matter that much? Of
course, as a young entrepreneur, a lot of believes what's important and how things work. And then a couple of years later, it turns out, you know what, they're also just cooking with water, right? In the first couple of years of PIABO, we never did any communication for ourselves. We thought, you know what, don't share our secrets with the world and how amazing we are and what we do and our great successes. But then we learned, also for us as an agency, as a service provider, we should communicate, because we also need to find the best talent. We need to be visible. There's more competition out there. We should make clear who's the number one, who has the best quality, why we are there, where we are, etc. This is important to us. Yeah, and so now we have with Verena that you've been in touch with, the head of our corporate communications department ourselves, and someone who communicates for us and organizes beautiful interviews like this one.
Yeah, I really enjoy this. So I'm also quite curious personally, what is the biggest failure of yours in the past, and what have you learned from that?
I think, you're always more clever afterwards, right, in the aftermath, because then you know what you should have done differently. Just to give you one example, if I would do it again, I would invest more early on in HR professionals, because we are people business in the end of the day. I think that was something that we've been a bit too late, that we had professionalized that. But now we have a pretty good and strong team. We win a lot of prizes for our employer branding, for our values, for our way how we do our. And just yesterday we announced of this kind of employer portal where you can rate employees, etc. We've been one of the top 5 companies in Germany overall with the best reputation for being a good employer. better late than never.
Sure. So the last question, and maybe the most interesting one. So what is the meaning of life to you?
I mean, for me, it's very clearly that I'm passionate about the future. I'm very pro-future. I'm very pro-technology. And I dedicated my entire life to making these people who really drive the change, giving them the visibility that they need to be successful with what they do, to bring the world forward, to make the world a better place, be it in health, be it in sustainability, impact our climate, be it in food, be it in finance, and in every industry. And when I see the massive impact that these people have on all of our lives on a daily basis, I think it's important to also give them the voice that they can explain and express themselves. So when you think what meaning of life is, this is my role in life, and this is my destiny, and that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm good at, and where I'm building the best, probably the best platform in the world for. And the life of an entrepreneur never stops. There's always something you can do better, you can fix, you can do, etc. And so, I mean, obviously, for me, life is more than work, right? Mm-hmm. I have amazing friends, I have an amazing family, and that's obviously something that is part of your life. But I think in the end of the day, life means, be it in business and private, being there for each other and taking care for each other. And that can be in business, that we are helping these entrepreneurs finding their way to be great communicators, making what they do, their change visible and approachable, and helping the society to understand about these changes. But at the same time, also applying the same principles, rules, and values for your private life, right? Helping your friends, being there for your family, and having a good life. And one day our lives will end. Even longevity tries to help us to be 150 or 200. Have you invested
any longevity?
Maybe, yes, I love longevity, all these topics, and I'm very ambitious about that. I mean, luckily my family has good genes when it comes to that. We have my grandma just passed away with almost 100. So I hope that with a bit of help of technology and longevity, and maybe making it far beyond that. But jokes aside, I think health is the most important thing what we have. Often you can't buy it with money, so taking care of that I think is absolutely important. So I never smoked in my life, I never drank in my life, I never took drugs in my entire life. So this is really the first step, if you not sleep, etc. Because only if you are happy and if you are healthy, you can help others, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not egoistic to say that, right? But if you're not strong, you can't be there for others and help them, right? And I think exactly. I'm always someone who likes to host a dinner party, bring people together, make introductions, help people moving forward, etc. And I think that brings me joy, that brings me fun, and the feeling that you contribute to other people's life in a positive way. That is something that means life for me, and not being egoistic and just like taking care of yourself and being there for others, helping others, and having the own talents that you have. In my case, communicating, having a great network, use that also to help other people thrive and come forward and make being a little contribution to make life in the world a little bit better every day.
Fix the miscommunication as Tilo and PIABO.
Yeah, I mean, like communication is key. It's in relationships as important as in politics, as it's in business. I think being a good communicator, that helps a lot, and it's a bit like in relationships as well, right? When friends come to you and complain about their man or about their wife, then you're asking them, have you talked about it? Right? After, I can't talk with her. Like, but it's often the answer, right? To look into each eyes and say, hey, let's talk about it. Like, let's figure it out, right? What's actually the problem? And often what's communicated is what the problem is, or on the surface the problem is not what the actually underlying problem is. Often what people say or how they act is often what they assume, because they assume things or they misinterpret certain things, right? And then they have reactions on a different level that has nothing to do with the actual core problem, but they are fighting about things that are actually nothing to do with the original things. And I think that's a skill also, especially with AI. It's important to be a good communicator and a good human being and show the best what we can as humans, because with AI, yes, a lot of change will happen, but our humanness, that's not something that can be taken away from us. So treating each other nicely, be there for each other, be supportive, and be the best version of ourselves we can, I think is a good start.
Thanks so much, Tilo, for your communication.
Thank you for coming, and it was a pleasure to be here in your show, and I wish you all the best for the format, and thank you for having a format that spreads also information in the world. So I give you a bit of water.
Yeah, perfect.
Sharing is caring. Thanks for
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time and dedication.
You too.